Chapter 10. Leo. Leo had designed the mess hall's walls to show real-time scenes from Camp Half-Blood. At first he had thought that was a pretty awesome idea. Now he wasn't so sure. The scenes from back home, the campfire sing-alongs, dinners at the pavilion, volleyball games outside the big house, just seemed to make his friend sad. The further they got from Long Island, the worse it got. The time zones kept changing, making Leo feel distance every time he looked at the walls. Here in Italy, the sun had just come up. Back at Camp Half-Blood, it was the middle of the night. Torches sputtered at cabin doorways. Moonlight glittered on the waves of Long Island Sound. The beach was covered in footprints as if a big crowd had just left. With a start, Leo realized that last night, whatever had been the 4th of July, they'd missed Camp Half-Blood's annual party at the beach, with awesome fireworks prepared by Leo's siblings in Cabin 9. He checked out not to mention that to the crew, but he hoped their buddies back at home had a good celebration. They needed something to keep their spirits up too. He remembered the images he'd seen in his dream. The camp in ruins, littered with bodies, Octavian standing at the volleyball pit, casually talking in Gaia's voice. He stared down at his eggs and bacons. He wished he could turn off the war videos. So, Jason said, now that we're here, he sat at the head of the table, kind of by default. Since they'd lost Annabeth, Jason had done his best to act as the group's leader. Having been traitor back at Camp Jupiter, he was probably used to that. But Leo could tell his friend he was stressed. He could tell his friend was stressed. His eyes were more sunken than usual. His blonde hair was uncharacteristically messy, like he'd forgotten to comb it. Leo glanced at the others around the table. Hazel was bleary-eyed too, but of course she'd been up all night guiding the ship through the mountains. Her curly cinnamon-coloured hair was tied back in a bandana, which gave her a commando look that Leo found kind of hot, and then immediately felt guilty about. Next to her sat her boyfriend, Frank Zhang, dressed in black workout pants and a Roman tourist t-shirt that said, Cleo! Was that even a word? Frank's old Centurion badge was pinned to his shirt. Despite the fact that the demigods of the Argo 2 were now public enemy numbers 1 through 7 back at Camp Jupiter. His grim expression just reinforced his unfortunate resemblance to a sumo wrestler. Then there was Hazel's half-brother, Nanko D'Angelo. Dang, that kid gave Leo the freaky deakies. He sat back at the leather Avatar jacket, his black t-shirt and jeans, that wicked silver skull ring on his finger, and the Stygian sword at his side. His tufts of black hair stuck up in curls like baby bat wings. His eyes were sad and kind of empty, as if he stared into the depths of Tartarus, which he had. The only absent demigod was Piper, who was taking her turn at the helm with Coach Hedge. There sat a chaperone. Leo wished Piper was here. She had a way of calming things down with the appropriate charm of hers. After his dreams last night, Leo could use some calm. On the other hand, it was probably good she was above deck chaperoning the chaperone. Now that they were in the ancient lands, they had to be constantly on guard. Leo was nervous about letting Coach Ed fly solo. The Satyr was a trigger happy, and the helm had plenty of bright, dangerous buttons that could cause the picturesque Italian villages below them to go boom. Leo had zoned out so totally he didn't realize Jason was still talking. The House of Hades, he was saying. Nico sat forward. I communed like with the dead last night. He just tossed that line out there like he was saying he got a text from a buddy. I was able to learn more about what we'll face, Nico continued. In ancient times, the House of Hades was a major site for Greek pilgrims. They would come to speak with the dead and honor their ancestors. Leo frowned. Sounds like Dia de los Muertos. Dia de los Muertos. My Aunt Rosa took that stuff seriously. She remembered being dragged by her to the local cemetery in Houston, where they clean up their relatives' grave sites and put out offerings of lemonade, cookies, and fresh marigolds. Aunt Rosa would force Leo to stay for a picnic, as if hanging out with the dead people were good for his appetite. Frank grunted. Chinese have that too. Ancestor worship, sweeping the graves in the springtime. He glanced at Leo. Your Aunt Rosa would have got along with my grandmother. Leo had a terrifying image of Aunt Rosa and some old Chinese women in wrestlers' outfits wailing on each other with spiked clubs. Yeah, Leo said. I'm sure they would have been best buds. Nico cleared his throat. A lot of cultures had seasonal traditions to honor the dead, but the House of Hades was open year-round. Pilgrims could actually speak to the ghosts. In Greek, the place was called Necromation, the Oracle of Death. You work your way through the different levels of tunnel, leaving offerings and drinking special potions. Special potions, Leo muttered. Yum. Leo flashed him a look like, Dude, enough. Nico, go on. The pilgrims believe that each level of the temple brought you closer to the underworld, until the dead would appear before you. If they were pleased with your offerings, they would answer your questions, maybe even tell you the future. Frank tapped his mug of hot chocolate. And if the spirits weren't pleased, some pilgrims found nothing, Nico said. Some went insane or died after leaving the temple. Others lost their way in the tunnels and were never seen again. The point is, Jason said quickly, Nico found some information that might help us. Yeah. Nico didn't sound very enthusiastic. The ghost I spoke to last night. He was a former priest of Hecate. He confirmed what the goddess told Hazel yesterday at the crossroads in the first war with the giants. Hecate fought for the gods. She slew one of the giants and who had been reside at the anti-Hecate, a guy named Slytius. Dark dude, Leo guessed. Wrapped in shadows. Hazel turned towards him, her gold eyes narrowing. Leo, how did you know that? Kind of had a dream. No one looked surprised. Most demigods had vivid nightmares about what was going on in the world. His friends paid close attention as Leo explained. He tried not to look at the wall images of Camp Half-Blood as he described the place in ruins. He told them about the dark giant and strange woman on Half-Blood Hill, offering him a multi-choice death. Jason pushed his plate away of pancakes. So the giant is Slytius. I suppose he's waiting for us guarding the doors of death. Frank rolled up one of the pancakes and started munching. Not a guy to let impending death stand in the way of a hearty breakfast. And the woman in Leo's dreams? She's my problem. Hazel passed the diamond between her fingers in a slate hand. Hecate mentioned a formidable enemy in the House of Hades. a witch who couldn't be defeated except by me, using magic. Do you know magic, Leo asked. Not yet. Ah. He tried to think of something hopeful to say, but he recalled the angry woman's eyes, the way her steely whip made his skin smoke. Any idea who she is? Hazel shook her head. Only that. She glanced at Lyco, and some sort of silent argument happened between them. Leah got the feeling the two of them had private conversations about the House of Hades, and they weren't sharing all the details. Only that she wouldn't be easy to defeat. But there is some good news, Lyco said. The ghost I talked to explained how Hecate defeated Slytius in the First War. She used her torches to set his hair on fire. He burned to death. In other words, fire is his weakness. Everyone looked at Leo. Oh, he said. Okay. Jason nodded encouragingly. This was great news. Like he expected Leo to walk up to a towering mass of darkness, shoot a fireball and solve all the problems. Leo didn't want to bring him down, but he could still hear Gaia's voices. He is the void that consumes all magic, the cold that consumes all fire, the silence that consumes all speech. Leo was sure it would take more than a few matches to set that giant ablaze. It's a good lead, Jason insisted. At least we know how to kill a giant, and this sorceress, well, if Hecate believes Hazel can defeat her, then so do I. Hazel dropped her eyes. Now we just have to reach the House of Hades. Battle our way through Gaia's forces, plus a bunch of ghosts, Lyco added grimly. The spirits of that temple may not be friendly. And find the doors of death, Hazel continued. Assuming we can somehow arrive at the same time as Percy and Annabeth and rescue them. For this, Frank swallowed a bite of pancake. We could do it. We have to. You admired the big guy's optimism. He wished he shared it. So, with this detour, Leo said, I'm estimating 4 or 5 days to arrive at Epirus, assuming no delays for you. For you know monsters attack and stuff. Jason smiled sourly. Yeah, those never happen. Leo looked at Hazel. Hecate told you that Gaia was planning her big wake-up party on August 1st, right? The Feast of whatever? Spes, Hazel said. The goddess of hope. Jason turned his fork. Theoretically, that leaves enough time. It's only July 5th. We should be able to close the doors of death, then find the giants, HQ, and stop them from waking Gaia before August 1st. Theoretically, Hazel agreed, but I still like to know how we're going to make our way through the House of Hades without going insane or dying. Nobody volunteered any ideas. Frank set down his pancake roll like it suddenly didn't taste so good. It's July 5th. Oh, geez, I haven't even thought of that. Hey, man, it's so cool. You're Canadian, right? I didn't expect you to get me an Independence Day present or anything unless you wanted to. It's not that. My grandmother, she always told me that 7 was an unlucky number. It was a ghost number. She didn't like it. When I told her there would be 7 demigods on our quest and July is the 7th month. Yeah, but Leo tapped his fingers nervously on one of the tables. He realized he was doing the Morse code for I love you, the way he used to do with his mum, which would have been pretty embarrassing if his friends understood the Morse code. But that's just a coincidence, right? Frank's expression didn't reassure him. Back in China, Frank said, In the old days, people called the 7th month the ghost month. That's when the spirit's world and the human world were closest. The living and the dead could go back and forth. Tell me it's a coincidence we're searching for the doors of death during the ghost month. No one spoke. Leo wanted to think at an old Chinese belief couldn't have anything to do with Romans and the Greeks. Totally different, right? But Frank's existence was proof that the cultures were tied together. The Zhang family went all the way back to ancient Greece. They'd found their way through Rome and China, and finally to Canada. Also, Leo kept thinking about his meeting with the revenge goddess Nemesis at the Great Salt Lake. Nemesis had called him the 7th wheel, the odd man out on the quest. She didn't mean 7th as in ghost, did she? Jason pressed his hands against the arms of his chairs. Let's focus on the things we can deal with. We're getting close to Bologna. Maybe we'll get more answers once we find these dwarfs. That Hecate said. The ship lurched as if it hit an iceberg. Leo's breakfast plate slid across the table. Nico fell backwards out of his chair and banged his head against the sideboard. He collapsed on the floor with a dozen magic goblets and platters crashing down on top of him. Nico! Hazel ran to help him. What? Frank tried to stand, but the ship pitched in the other direction. He stumbled into the table and went face first into Leah's plate of scrambled eggs. Look! Jason pointed at the walls. The images of Camp Half-Blood were flickering and changing. Not possible, Leo murmured. No way those enchantments could show anything other than scenes from camp. But suddenly, a huge disordered face with the entire port side wall, crooked yellow teeth, a scraggly red beard, warty nose, and 2 mismatched eyes, one much larger and higher than the other. The face seemed to be trying to eat its way into the room. The other walls flickered, showing the scene from above deck. Piper stood at the helm, but something was wrong. From the shoulders down, she was wrapped in duct tape, her mouth gagged and her legs bound to control the console. At the mainmast, Coach Head was similarly bound and gagged, while a bizarre-looking creature, a sort of gnome chimpanzee combo with poor-fashioned sense, danced around him, doing the coach's hair in tiny pigtails. With pink rubber bands. On the port side wall, the huge ugly face breathed so that Leo could see the entire creature. The other gnome chimp in even crazier clothes. This one began leaping around the deck, stuffing things into a burlap bag. Piper's dagger, Leo's Wii controllers. Then he prized the Archimedes sphere out of the command console. No! Leo yelled. Nico groaned from the floor. Piper! Jason cried. Monkey! Frank yelled. No monkeys, Hazel grumbled. I think those are dwarfs. Stealing my stuff, Leo yelled, and he ran for the stairs. Here was chapter 11. Leo. Leo was vaguely aware of Hazel shouting, Go, I'll take care of Nico, as if Leo was going to turn back. Sure, he'd hoped that Anglo was okay, but he had headaches of his own. Leo bounded up the stairs with Jason and Frank behind him. The situation on the deck was even worse than he feared. Coach Hedge and Piper was struggling against their duct tape bonds while one of the demon monkey dwarfs, danced around the deck, picking up whatever was tied down and sticking it in its bow. He was maybe 4 feet tall, even shorter than Coach Hedge, with bowed legs like chimp feet. His clothes so loud. How can clothes be loud? Strange. His clothes so loud they gave Leo vertigo. His green plaid trousers were pinned at the cuffs and held up with bright red suspenders. Over a striped pink and black woman's blouse. He wore 6 gold watches on each arm and a zebra pattern cowboy hat with a price tag dangling from the brim. His skin covered with patches of scraggly red fur, though 90% of his body hair seemed to be... let me try again. His skin was covered with patches of scraggly red fur, though 90% of his body hair seemed to be concentrated in his magnificent eyebrows. Leo was just forming the thought, where's the other dwarf? Then, when he heard a click behind him, and he realized he'd led his friends into a trap. Duck! He hit the deck as the explosion blasted his eardrums. Note to self, Leo thought groggily, do not leave boxes of magic grenades when dwarves can reach them. At least he was alive. Leo had been experimenting with all sorts of weapons based on the Archimedes sphere that he'd recovered in Rome. He built generators that could spray acid, fire, shrapnel, or freshly buttered popcorn. Hey, you! Never knew when you'd get hungry in battle. Judging from the ringing in Leo's ears, the dwarf had detonated a flashbang grenade, which Leo had filled with the rare veal of Apollo's music. Poor liquid attract. It didn't kill, but it left Leo feeling like he'd just done a belly flop off the deep end. He tried to get up. His limbs were useless. Someone was tugging at his waist. Maybe a friend trying to help him up? No. His friends didn't smell like heavy perfume monkey cages. He managed to turn over. His vision was out of focus and tinted pink. The world had been submerged in strawberry jelly. A grinning, grotesque face loomed over him. The brown-furred dwarf was dressed even worse than his friend in a green bowler hat like a leprechaun's dangly diamond, earrings, and black referee's shirt. He showed off surprise he'd just stolen Leo's tool belt, then danced away. Leo tried to grab it, but his fingers were numb. The dwarf fockled over the nearest ballista with his red-furred friend, was screaming to launch. The brown-furred dwarf jumped onto the projectile like it was a skateboard, and his friend shot him into the sky. The red fur pranced over to Coach Hedge. He gave the setter a big smack on the cheek, then skipped to the rail. He bowed to Leo, doffing his zebra cowboy hat, and a backflip over the side. Leo managed to get up. Jason was already on his feet, stumbling and running into things. Frank had turned into a silverback gorilla. Why? Leo wasn't sure. Maybe to commune with the monkey dwarfs. The flash grenade had hit him hard. He was sprawled on the deck with his tongue hanging out, and his gorilla eyes rolled up in his head. Piper! Jason staggered to the helm, carefully pulled the gag out of her mouth. Don't waste your time on me, he said. Go after them. At the mast, Coach Hedge mumbled, Leo figured that meant Kill them! Easy translation, since most of the coach's sentences involve the word kill. Leo glanced at the control console. His Archimedes sphere was gone. He put his hand to his waist where his tool belt should have been. His head started to clear, and his sense of outrage came to a boil. Those dwarfs had attacked his ship. They stolen his most precious possessions. Below him spread the city of Bologna, a jigsaw puzzle of red-tide buildings in a valley, hemmed in by green hills. Unless Leo could find the dwarf somewhere in that mass of streets. Nope, failure was an option. Nothing was waiting for his friends to recover. He turned to Jason. You feel good enough to control the winds? I need a lift. Jason frowned. Sure, but good, Leo said. We got some monkey dudes to catch. Jason and Leo touched down a big piazza lined with white marble government buildings and outdoor cafes. Bikes and Vespas clogged the surrounding streets. But the square itself was empty except for pigeons. And a few old men were drinking espressos. None of the locals seemed to notice the huge warship hovering over the piazza, nor the fact that Jason and Leo had just thrown down. Jason wielding a gold sword, and Leo pretty much was empty-handed. Where to? Jason asked. Leo stared at him. Well, I don't know. Let me pull my dwarf tracking GPS out of my tool belt. Oh wait, I don't have a dwarf tracking GPS or my tool belt. Fine, Jason grumbled. He glanced up at the ship as if to get his bearings. Then he pointed across the piazza. The ballista fired the first dwarf in that direction, I think. Come on! They waded through a lake of pigeons, then maneuvered down a side street of clothing stores and gelato shops. The sidewalks were lined with bright columns covered in graffiti. Gravity can be colored. A few panhandles asked for change. He didn't know Italian, but he got the message loud and clear. He kept patting his waist, hoping his tool belt would magically reappear. It didn't. He tried not to freak, but he'd come to depend on that belt for almost everything. He felt like somebody had stolen one of his hands. We'll find it, Jason promised. Unusually, Jason would have felt reassured. Jason had a talent for staying level-headed in a crisis, and he got Leo out of the plenty of bad scrap. Though all Leo could think about was the stupid fortune cookie he had opened in Rome, the goddess Nemesis had promised him help, and he'd got it. The coach who acted the Archimedes sphere at the time, Leo had no choice but to use it. He wanted to save his friends, but Nemesis warned that her help came with a price. Leo wondered if that price would ever be paid. Percy and Annabeth were gone. The ship was hundreds of miles off course, heading towards an impossible challenge. Leo's friends were counting on him to beat a terrifying giant. Now he didn't even have his tool belt or his academic sphere. He was so absorbed with feeling sorry for himself that he didn't notice where they were until Jason grabbed his arm. Check it out! Leo looked up. They'd arrived in a smaller piazza. Looming over them was a huge bronze statue of a buck-naked Neptune. Ah, geez. Leo averted his eyes. He really didn't need to see a goggly groan this early in the morning. The sea god stood on a big marble column in the middle of a fountain that wasn't working, which seemed kind of ironic, sitting, kind of chilling, like, "What's up?" Neptune himself avoided the groan, was throwing his hip to one side in an Elvis precisely move. He gripped his trident loosely in his right hand and stretched his left hand out like he was blessing Leo, or possibly attempting to levitate him. Some kind of clue, Leo wondered? Jason frowned. Maybe, maybe not. There are statues of the gods all over the place in Italy. I'd just feel better if we ran across Jupiter or Minerva. Anybody but Neptune, really. Leo climbed into the dry mountain. He put his hand on the statue's pedestal, and Russian impressions surged through his fingertips. He sensed celestial bronze gear, magical levers, springs, and pistons. "It's mechanical," he said. "Maybe a doorway to the dwarf's secret lair?" "Ooh!" shrieked a nearby voice. "Secret lair? I want a secret lair!" yelled another voice from above. Jason stepped back, his sword ready. Leo almost got a whiplash trying to look into two places at once. The red-furred dwarf in the cowboy hat was sitting about 30 feet away at the nearest cafe table, sipping an espresso held by his monkey-like foot. The brown-furred dwarf in green boulders was perched on the marble pedestal as Neptune. Just above Leo's head. "If we had a secret lair," said Redfur, "I would want a firehouse pole." "And a water slide," said Brownfur, who was pulling some random tools out of Leo's belt, tossing aside wrenches and hammers and stable guns. "Stop that!" Leo tried to grab the dwarf's feet, but he couldn't reach the top of the pedestal. Too short, Brownfur sympathized. "You're calling me short?" Leo looked around for something to throw, but there was nothing but pigeons, and he doubted he could catch one. "Give me my belt, you stupid!" Now, said Brownfur. "We haven't even introduced ourselves. I'm Akmod, and my brother over there is the handsome one." The red-furred dwarf lifted his espresso, judging from his dilated eyes and his maniacal grin. He didn't need any more caffeine. Pasalos, singer of songs, drinker of coffee, stealer of shiny stuff. "Please," shrieked his brother Akmon, "I steal much better than you." Pasalos snorted. "Stealing naps, maybe." He took out a knife, Piper's knife, and started picking his teeth with it. "Hey!" Jason yelled. "That's my girlfriend's knife!" He lunged at Pasalos, but the red-furred dwarf was too quick. He sprang from his chair, bounced off Jason's head, did a flip, and landed next to Leo, his hairy arms around Leo's waist. "Save me," the dwarf pleaded. "Get off!" Leo tried to shove him away, but Pasalos did a backwards somersault and landed out of reach. Leo's trousers promptly fell out around his knees. He stared at Pasalos, who was now grinning and holding a small zigzag-ish rifle of metal. Somehow, the dwarf had stolen the zipper right off Leo's trousers. "You stupid zipper!" Leo started, trying to shake his fist and hoist up his trousers at the same time. Not shiny enough." Pasalos tossed it away. Jason lunged with his sword. Passalos launched himself straight up and was suddenly sitting on the statue's pedestal next to his brother. "Tell me I don't have moves," Passalos boasted. "Okay," Akmon said. "You don't have moves." "Bah," Passalos said. "Give me a tool belt. I want to see." "No," Akmon elbowed him away. "You got a knife and a shiny ball." "Yes, this shiny ball is nice." Passalos took off his cowboy hat like a magician producing a rabbit. He pulled out the Archimedes sphere and began tinkering with the ancient bronze dials. "Stop!" Leo yelled. "That's a delicate machine!" Jason came to his side and glared up at the dwarfs. "Who are you two, anyway?" The Kirkopes. Akmon narrowed his eyes at Jason. "I bet you're a son of Jupiter, eh?" "I can always tell." "Just like Black Bottom," Passalos agreed. "Black Bottom?" Leo resisted the urge to jump at the dwarf's feet again. He was sure Passalos was going to ruin the Archimedes sphere any second now. "Yes, you know," Akmon grinned. "Hercules. We called him Black Bottom because he used to go around without clothes. He got so tangled that his backside, well, at least he had a sense of humour," Passalos said. "He was going to kill us when we stole from him. But he let us go because he liked our jokes." "Not like you two, grumpy." "Hey, I've got sense of humour," Leo snarled. "Give me back our stuff and I'll tell you the joke with a good punchline." "Nice try." Akmon pulled a racket wrench from the tool belt and spun it like a noisemaker. "Oh, very nice. I'm definitely keeping this. Thanks, Blue Bottom." "Blue Bottom?" Leo glanced down and his trousers slipped around his ankles again, revealing his blue boxer shorts. "That's it," he shouted. "My stuff now, or I'll show you how funny a flaming dwarf is." His hands caught fire. "Now we're talking." Jason thrust his sword into the sky. Dark clouds began to gather over the piazza. Thunder boomed. "Oh, scary!" Akmon shrieked. "Yes," Passalos agreed. "If only we had a secret lair to hide in." "Alas, isn't this doorway to a secret lair?" Akmon said. "It has a different purpose." Leo's gut twisted. The fire died in his hands, and he realized something was very wrong. He yelled, "Trapped!" and dived out of the fountain. Unfortunately, Jason was too busy summoning his storm. Leo rolled on back as 5 golden claws shot from the Neptune statue's finger. One barely missed Leo's feet. The rest homed in one Jason, wrapping him like a rodeo car and yanking him upside down. A bolt of lightning blasted the tines of Neptune's trident, sending arrows of electricity up and down the statue. But Kirkopes had already disappeared. "Bravo," Akmon applauded from a nearby cafe table. "You make a wonderful piñata, son of Jupiter." "Yes," Passalos agreed. "Hercules hung upside down. Once you know, revenge is sweet." Leo summoned a fireball. He lobbed it at Passalos, who was trying to juggle 2 pigeons at the Archimedes sphere. "Yeek!" The dwarf jumped free of the explosion, dropping the sphere and letting the pigeons fly. "Time to leave," Akmon decided. He tipped his bowl and sprang away, jumping from table to table. Passalos glanced at the Archimedes sphere, which had rolled between Leo's feet. Leo summoned another fireball. "Try me," he snarled. "Bye." Passalos did a backflip and ran after his brother. Leo scooped up the Archimedes sphere and ran over to Jason, who was still hanging upside down, thoroughly hog-tied. Except for his forearm, he was trying to cut the cords with his gold blade, but having no luck. "Hold on," Leo said. If I can release the switch. Just go, Jason growled. I'll follow you when I get out of this, but don't lose them. The last thing Leo wanted was some alone time with the monkey dwarf. But the Caracops was already disappearing around the far corner of the piazza. Leo left Jason hanging and ran after them.